the nation. Sister Danielle, how are you doing, my queen?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Assalamu alaikum. How's everybody?
My sister Ramadan Kareem.
Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem to
How are
everyone else
you?
on the platform. I'm good, alhamdulillah. It's Ramadan. It's a good month. It's a blessed month.
Ramadan.
The most blessed month, alhamdulillah. It's good. I'm good.
Brothers and sisters, Sister Samira, are you there? Are you there, Sister Samira? Sister, I'm going to give you 30 seconds because I know you love this sister so much. I'm going to say too much, but you love this sister so much. In 30 seconds, sister, give us a quick resume on the sister. So those who may not know her, just give a quick resume, 30 seconds.
Well, I love her so much because we've been best friends for 24 years. So I do feel that that's a good enough reason to love someone who's been in my life, but she's blessed so many people. Having completed her traineeship at the European Parliament, she has achieved phenomenal things in different parts of the world. I'll bring you up to date with what she is right now in terms of being a management consultant, and I'm going to make sure I get your full title correct, Danielle, which is that she is a psychological and therapeutic interventions practitioner specializing in social, emotional, and mental health needs, holistic solutions for repair and recovery. Brothers and sisters, this is why when it comes to looking at trauma to triumph, there is none better. As equally brilliant as our sister, Dr. Elaine, is the beautiful Sister Danielle.
Chicken back foot. Come on, Sister Danielle. Come on.
30 seconds. Gone.
That was brilliant, Sister Samira. That was brilliant.
Oh, thank you, Sam. Much love, alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry that I missed Dr. Elaine speaking. I really would have liked to have gotten onto that, but I was breaking my fast, so I'm here. But what I did catch is that you were speaking about empathy, Dr. Elaine, and as Sam knows, and anyone that knows, empathy is a massive thing for me. I'm always promoting empathy all the time in everything that we do. Thank you very much for having me back on the platform. So I'm going to carry on. This is a part 2, so to speak, from the last time that I was on, talking about healthy relationships and how to have positive, healthy relationships, and how to minimize toxic ones, and what to do if we are in toxic, abusive situations. Before I start, I just want to address 2 things from the last time that I was on the platform. The first thing is, and I'll just say this in a quick statement, is when we are talking about the violation of a young girl, a woman or a girl, when her body is being violated, there is no place within that conversation to talk about what she was wearing. And I'll leave that at that. That's all I'll say about that. The other thing that I wanted to address, which is interesting, which you were speaking a little bit about today, Dr. Elaine and Brother Andrew and Samir, you mentioned as well, is to do with our trauma. And one comment that I saw last week was someone had said, I don't blame black men for anything. And I really thought it was important for me to pick up on that, and I wanted to address that comment, because absolutely we have to recognize our trauma and understand where our behaviors come from. But what we have to understand is that doesn't absolve us of responsibility. So what we don't want to do is infantilize black men. That's not what we want to do. And I'm sure, and obviously I know no one on this platform would advocate that, but we risk doing that by saying, I don't blame them for anything. So this attitude is part of the problem that has caused this lack of protection of black women within the community, because we're championing and protecting other people at the expense of ourselves and don't get that protection back. So this isn't about berating or chastising black men, as you said, Brother Andrew, not at all. But what it is about is that recognizing that love is not synonymous with enabling or overlooking negative and harmful behaviors. It's not synonymous with that. Love and accountability are not mutually exclusive. Love and accountability are not mutually exclusive. I can hold individual black people to account and still love my blackness. I can do that. I can have compassion and empathy for people while still calling out behavior that is inappropriate and standing up against abuses. These 2 things can coexist, and we need to stop pretending that they can't. And it's so important that we do that. And that's when we're having empathy and having love, but speaking truth and holding people to account. Because loving something doesn't mean that we wash over the things that they do and we ignore behaviors. It means that we want it to do better. We want it to develop, we want it to progress, and we support it and help it in achieving those things. So if the kind of love that we want and the kind of love that someone wants for us is the one where we enable everything, all the negative behavior, and we ignore it and we wash over it, that's not genuine real love. That's not genuine real love. And there is no place for that kind of love in a healthy, positive relationship. No place for it. That's all I wanted to say on that part. So we'll kick off. So last week, just to summarize quickly, the week before, we were speaking about healthy relationships and the work that we need to do to make sure we're in a healthy relationship. And we spoke about that whole self work. So we talked about doing the whole self work, looking at our own schema, our cognitive framework, how we move through the world and how we understand things, what we see as the norm, and breaking down and addressing those negative behaviors. So we spoke about that a little bit, and we spoke about what constitutes a healthy relationship. And the number one thing that we addressed, our superpower, is emotional intelligence. So we looked at our superpower in terms of emotional intelligence. So active listening to respond, not to react. Empathy was a massive part of that as well. So I'm so happy you've spoken about this today. Having self-awareness, self-regulation, understanding our own emotions and where they come from, but also those of others, and understanding the impact that we have on people, and effective communication, honesty, respect, and boundaries. So I don't want to labor those things too much because we covered them. What I really want to focus on is the toxic side of things and the red flags, because we didn't get to finish those parts. So I'm going to focus on that for the rest of this time and move through to looking at abuse and what we can do about that. So an unhealthy relationship is anything that has a negative impact on our social, emotional, and our mental health and well-being. There's a fine line between toxicity and abuse, and oftentimes emotional abuse is happening when we're in a toxic relationship. Sometimes it's not always people doing that to us. Sometimes it's us doing it to them. Remember the whole self-work we need to do, because we might be a problem for somebody, which is why we need to keep doing the work. But oftentimes when we're in toxic relationships, we are harming ourselves, we're oppressing ourselves, and we're inflicting that abuse on ourselves as well as other people. So looking at those red flags, is our relationship stress-inducing? Are we walking on eggshells? Are our needs being ignored, and are we ignoring other people's needs? Are we carrying the weight of the entire relationship, and are we expected to carry the weight? Is that expectation there from the other party? Does one party feel that they are superior? So do they feel that they are smarter, prettier, that they always have to be the one on top? These things are toxic. Do we emotionally withdraw? So giving the cold shoulder. Do we belittle and berate people? Do we disengage? Do we speak to someone with contempt, name-calling, sarcasm? Are we always defensive? Do we diminish that person? Do we diminish them in front of other people and behind closed doors? Do we diminish them? Do we minimize their achievements? Do we celebrate in their successes? If not, why not? That's unhealthy. We should be in a relationship where we commiserate and celebrate with an individual. Remember, we said this thing. We said a lot of time people say, you know the true value of a relationship when you're going through the hard times. That's very true, but you also know the true value of it when you're going through successful times, when you've achieved something amazing. The right person, the right people around you will celebrate and commiserate with you. This is really important as well. So when you're diminishing and devaluing people, do they laugh it off and dismiss it as a joke? This is all toxic behavior. Do we consistently bring up the past, past things, or you did this, you used to do this all the time? If you've come to a point in your relationship where you've agreed to move on and move forward, the past should stay exactly where it needs to be, which is in the past. And you need to agree that and move on wholeheartedly. Are you comparing them to past relationships? Again, that's looking at our schema. Are we projecting and transferring our past experiences or what we've seen as the norm into these new relationships? All these things are unhealthy. So those are the key red flags that I just wanted to touch on just quickly. So now we're going to move into abuse. And the reason that this is really important is, I will say this might be difficult and triggering for some people, but it's really important to recognize the signs and understand what the signs are and what the impact that this has on us if we're in abusive relationships, because this can really save lives. So thinking about ourselves, but also other people that we may know in these situations as well. So abuse by nature affects our work life or social life. It causes overwhelming stress and anxiety. It has a massive physiological and physical impact. One that I want to really touch on is coercive control. And the reason that coercive control is so significant is because it's subtle and insidious. And it can be really difficult to see even when we're in the situation. And for that reason, it's more dangerous. So the definition of coercive control is any acts or pattern of acts that are used to threaten, intimidate, humiliate, or frighten an individual. So a lot of this is around manipulation, gaslighting. So gaslighting has become sort of this pop psychology term, but it's a real thing. And what gaslighting involves is manipulating the person to doubt their own feelings, to doubt their own memory, to doubt their sanity, to question the validity of their experience. And honestly, as Black people, we're used to this happening to us. Someone just said in the comments, sounds like racism. Absolutely. We're quite accustomed to this happening to us. But in terms of abusive relationships and coercive control, this is a really significant component of it, that gaslighting, because you begin to think, well, did that really happen to me? Am I losing my mind? Is my memory not correct? Am I really the problem? And the abuser will use these kind of tactics to manipulate. So that's really important to understand. One thing that a term, sadly, that I've heard quite a lot through my work and even in social circles as well, is people will only see abuse as physical abuse. And they'll say, oh, at least he or she, I'll say he because abuse is a gendered phenomenon, but we know it can happen both ways. Oh, at least he doesn't hit you. That is the lowest bar we can possibly set. The lowest bar we can possibly set. That's not love and it's not a relationship. To have that minimum line there, at least he doesn't hit you. Often physical abuse will manifest later on down the line, and sometimes it doesn't even manifest at all. So these other types, these psychological, emotional abuse, are the more insidious and the more dangerous ones. So it's really important that we understand. So coercive control, a person that's in a situation will be isolated from friends and family. Often they'll be isolated from their sources of support. So what can happen is, and then I'll give you an example of a situation of someone that I was working with, is their partner was like an Iago, Othello, and Iago was there whispering things in his ear. That's exactly the type of behavior that this person was engaging in, and saying, oh, why did your friend give you that present? Oh, they can't really like you. And this person really started to believe it. But the reason that the abuser had honed in on this particular friend is because their charm and everything they were trying to do didn't wash with this friend. They saw the person, they saw the abuser for who they really are. So the abuser needed to get their partner away from that friend. And that's what they do. They'll try to draw them away and isolate them from those sources of support. Regulating everyday behavior. So this can be something as simple as if someone's on the phone and they'll always be in the background and making noise loudly, so you're aware they're in the background, and the person on the other end of the phone is aware they're in the background. So I'm here, I'm ever present in this situation, so they're looming over the person. Exploiting their resources. Another example of someone that I worked with is, well, you have a house, you have your own house, we're together, you shouldn't have your own house when I've got debts. Sell your own house and give me the money. Pay for things for me. Oh, they were married they were in a marriage, and even something as simple as, where's that £5 you owe me, or where's the money that you owe me for your half of such and such. So those kinds of financial exploitations, and depriving the person of their independence as well. It can be very, very difficult for individuals to prove. And perpetrators, they really rely on the guilt and shame that's felt by the victim to keep them quiet. They really rely on that. So that's something to take note of as well. They will use the guilt and shame for their own benefit to keep their coercive control and their abusive nature covered up. Okay, so what we're going to do is look at narcissistic personality disorder and narcissistic traits. And the reason for that is because this is, again, is a very dangerous type of abuse. And narcissistic traits are becoming normalized. They're becoming normalized, these dangerous kinds of behaviors. And they're even lauded as entertainment, because this cult of personality, we see these toxic personalities on television all the time, and they're lauded as entertainment, when really these people are narcissistic and actually quite dangerous. And these are not people that we should be giving a platform to at all. So narcissistic personality disorder, generally, narcissism refers to this grandiose sense of self, this self-importance, this arrogant nature, this need for admiration. They're hypersensitive regarding themselves. They lack empathy to varying degrees, and everything is about them. So there's various different types of narcissist. It's a spectrum. Narcissistic personality disorder is a spectrum. So some types, the overt types, will display anger, hostility, and have poor interpersonal skills. You have the covert type that are very vulnerable to criticism. They have low self-esteem, and this fluctuates, and they're very concerned about their own failure and their own sensitivity. No concern for the other person at all, only about themselves. You have the exhibitionist type, very, very egocentric. They have this sense of entitlement, have lots of interpersonal issues, and their behaviors are very exploitative. The most severe type of narcissistic personality disorder is the malignant narcissist. Now, the malignant narcissist, you'll be able to see them a mile off. They're antisocial, they're very aggressive, and they have pleasure in humiliating and causing harm. Pleasure in humiliating and causing harm. Now, you would think that they were the most dangerous type, but they're not. The reason they're not is because you can see who they are quite clearly. It's hard for them to hide their aggression and their antisocial behavior. The histronic narcissist is who you need to look out for. These are the most dangerous because they are the charmers. They fool everybody. They hook you in with their empathy, hook you in. Especially for empaths and people that are very sensitive, they will try and hook them in. They hook them in. They even fool professionals or people in positions of authority, because they say, oh, that person would never behave in that way. So the negative behaviors that the person that is with the narcissist, the histrionic narcissist, is experiencing, the outside world cannot see this, and they cannot even believe that these things are happening. So they elicit sympathy and they play the victim. Oh, I can't believe you did that to me. They play innocent, they're full of life, full of energy, they're helpful to everyone and anyone. They'll even hide behind a good cause, a worthy cause. I'm so helpful. I'm so, look at what I'm doing. My altruism speaks for itself. And the language they use, very endearing language, sweetie, baby, honey. We've all encountered some of these. I'm sure people can be thinking of one right now. We've all encountered one of these. Be careful. Be very, very careful. This is why histrionic narcissists are so dangerous.
Sorry,
so,
sister.
Yes.
Someone just asked, and I didn't want to stop your flow, but I think it's a very good point. If you could just answer in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Is this a type of bipolar?
No, that's a completely different disorder. It's not bipolar. Completely different. So this is narcissistic personality disorder. There's different types of personality disorders, and there's different types of mental health. I think maybe, Brother Andrew, it would be helpful if one day we had a session around looking at the difference between mental illness and personality disorder.
Absolutely.
That might be a useful thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. But no, it's not bipolar. It's interesting the person says that, because you might see some things that show similar traits, but it's a very different thing. Okay, thank you for that question. Good question. Okay, so narcissistic abuse, the reason that we're going to focus on that itself is because it deviates from the general abuse cycle. So in this general abuse cycle that we see, there's a period of tension where the tension is building up. Then there's the incident, the perpetrator will do something. There's a period of reconciliation while they're saying, oh, sorry, you know, I love you, I didn't mean it, all of this nonsense that they come out with. And then there's a period of calm. Narcissistic abuse is a slow burner. It's a slow burner because narcissists only view others as functioning to serve themselves, to serve their own purpose, to serve their own desire. And these relationships are non-reciprocal. You will not get love, you will not get empathy, you will not get any of those things from a narcissist. If you're in a relationship, you will not get them. Really important to know. So the narcissistic abuse cycle is 3 things. So we have 3 stages: idealize, devalue, and discard. So we're going to look at the idealize, and some people might have seen this in action and might have actually experienced it themselves. So this is sometimes known as love bombing. I'm so sure people might have heard that term. So love bombing. So this is when we get these overly romantic gestures immediately, sometimes within the first day of meeting the person. Charming flattery, they can't do enough for you. They say things like, oh, I can see us on a honeymoon in a few years. This is the romantic sense. Bear in mind, we can have platonic narcissistic relationships as well, so that's important to know. They talk about a future together. It's all too much. Giving gifts. They often tell you a sob story to hook you in. They tell you what you want to hear. This is not genuine. None of it is genuine. It's grooming. You are being groomed. And this is this tool of the narcissist to hook someone in. Yeah, to hook someone in. Okay, none of it's genuine. It's manipulation to get you on the hook. Then we go to the devalue stage. So once a narcissist has got you, as quickly as all this romancing and lovely stuff started, it stops. It's as intense as it was, it's shut off. The admiration is gone. So they'll dismiss and devalue you. You'll get insults. They'll put themselves on the pedestal now. So it's changed. So before you were on the pedestal, and now they've put themselves in that position. So they'll dismiss you. They'll take no blame for any actions whatsoever. You cannot turn around and say to a narcissist, you did this to me. No, I didn't. Even if you say, oh, I'm looking at this, I think you might be a narcissist. Well, you're the narcissist. You're coming at me and saying these things. They'll turn it around on you, and that's that gaslighting element coming in. And when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you'll be left wondering what you did wrong. Is something wrong with you? And you'll ask them, look, I gave you everything. I gave you everything. They'll turn around and blame you, say, I didn't ask you. Didn't ask you to do that. I didn't ask you to give me anything. They'll blame you. They'll be bored of you. And you'll keep trying harder. You'll keep trying harder. You'll keep trying harder. But now you're on the hook and they've got you dangling and they're not interested anymore. Then comes the discard stage. So they have all the power and control, which is what a narcissist is looking for. And once they feel that they've got all the power control, you're no longer of any value to them. They'll demean and humiliate you in public. They'll start a new relationship, sometimes under your nose. They'll abandon you, but they'll keep you just at arm's length so they can pull you back at any time of their choosing. The narcissist likes to be in control. They're almost like a collector of bodies in a way, and that's kind of how it works. And if you leave and try and take back the control, this is where narcissists will operate in terms of stalking you, harassing you, spreading rumors about you. This is the type of behavior that they engage in. So this is the cycle that we need to look out for. Idealize, devalue, discard. Really important to keep that in mind. So when we're looking at the impact of this abuse, aside from the low self-esteem and destroying confidence, the impact on our emotional and physical well-being, anxiety-inducing, no self-esteem, no confidence, all of these things can almost debilitate someone in a relationship. But what I want to talk about is another reason why it's difficult for people to leave abusive relationships. So that's one thing. You're so low that you don't feel like you have any value anymore. But another thing is something called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. Now, This isn't something that's unique to victims of abuse. It happens. We all will have experienced some form of cognitive dissonance at some point in our lives. And what cognitive dissonance is two conflicting beliefs existing at the same time. Here, and our brain cannot reconcile those two things. So when we have beliefs and behaviors that don't align, it causes stress and anxiety. Now, normally a way to ease that would be to change behavior, or look at a different belief, or change our belief system, or change what we're doing, do something different. But remember, the brain is designed to protect us. And sometimes that's not always necessarily healthy. It's not going to automatically go to the healthiest thing because it's designed to protect. So what it will do is the brain will lose the least stressful and the least complicated way to bring reassurance and psychological comfort. That's what the brain will do. And often what this looks like is ignoring the offending behavior. So the easiest way for the brain to remedy those two things, to diminish that conflict, is to ignore the behavior that offends. Hence, this is why victims a lot of the time, and I'm going to use the word victim, sorry, just for ease of understanding. That's the only reason why I'm using this term. It's not my preferred term, but I'm just using it for ease. That's why victims will make excuses. Oh, he does love me. He's just having a bad day. Oh, she loves me. She's just ill. Oh, you know, they had a difficult day at work. They're grieving for something. And we all might have heard this. We might have heard this before, where someone is saying, I know they treat me really badly, but they do love me. And this is this cognitive dissonance at play, because they really need to align those two behaviors. They need to ignore those things because it's causing so much psychological stress and anxiety. And that's the easiest way. So that's another reason why I think it will be easy for people to understand why it's so difficult to leave, because it's the work that the brain, in a way, the brain is working against us. Okay. Hormones also are at play here. So there's three key hormones, three chemicals in our bodies that I want to take account of. That's oxytocin, sometimes known as the love hormone. That's to do with bonding and attachment and love. Opioids, which are to do with pleasure, pain, and withdrawal. And dopamine. So that's our seeking hormone. So we're seeking, we're playing, we want things, we want to engage in things. That's when our dopamine goes high. So we experience all of these hormones in healthy relationships, you know, and they're good and they give us balance. They help us to engage. And when we're in a healthy relationship, oxytocin seeks connection. And what that connection will do is it eases withdrawal. So the oxytocin comes in and it eases withdrawal and it reduces pain. Opioids, when we have the opioids that we get from being in a relationship, when we have that loss of relationship, it's painful. So if you think about someone that's a substance misuser, when they're going cold turkey, if they're on opioids, they're in physical pain. It has a physical effect. This is what it's like with a loss of relationship. So we go for grief or a loss. The reason sometimes why the pain feels physical is because of that opioid reduction. So all of these hormones, they occur in an abusive relationship as well. That's important to know. They all are present in an abusive relationship. But the difference is, because an abusive relationship is unsafe and we have no comfort, these hormones become dysregulated. So high oxytocin, instead of becoming this comfort that eases withdrawal and reduces pain, high oxytocin in abusive relationships becomes a sign of social distress. And this creates what we call a trauma bond. So these dysregulated hormones create a trauma bond. Okay. Important to know. I hope I'm not going too fast for anyone, Brother Andrew. I hope this is all clear. Okay.
Very clear, very clear.
Okay, good. So what do we need to do? So in the initial stages, and this is to do with toxic relationships and abusive relationships as well, any kind of relationship that we're entering. Remember, we're talking about healthy relationships. We spoke about all those things, that the foundation of communication and emotional intelligence and empathy. And for people that are actually doing the work, doing the self-care, doing the work on themselves and dismantling those old tropes, dismantling those unhealthy behaviors. So what do we do when we enter in one? Ask questions. It sounds really simple and straightforward, but people do not do it. You'll be amazed at the amount of time that people do not simply ask questions, but asking the right questions. So breaking through this superficiality and the charm. break through all of these things. So this is someone that you're letting into your intimate space, into your life, and that of others, especially if you have children or other people that you're engaging with. Do not be afraid to ask questions. A really good question that I tell people to ask all the time, and actually I asked my husband before we got married, is ask them what they learned from their last relationship. What did you learn from your last relationship? Simple but effective. And look at their reaction. And listen out for their response and their reaction. Don't just listen out for what they think you want to hear. Listen for their genuine reaction and their good response. And then the follow-up is, how did you use what you learned in your last relationship to improve yourself? How did you use what you learned to improve yourself? Because we all should be doing work. Nobody should be answering a question and saying, oh, it was all my ex, they were this, they were that, oh, nobody's ever liked me, I have all these problems with people, and it was always them. If someone's always blaming and criticizing their ex, whether ex-partner, ex-friend, whatever it is, that's a red flag. Again, look out for someone that puts you on a pedestal too quickly. If they say, I love you more than I love myself, red flag, run. Do not be around that person. Move as fast as you can. Have some discernment. Do not just be lustful. We're not looking at the physical. We're not just looking at the physical. Have some discernment. If you're in a coercive control, a relationship of coercive control, even if you're unsure, if you start to feel uncomfortable, remember what we said. Even if you've seen things, relationships that are the norm, and you think something's not quite right here, but this is normal, this is all that I've seen, but you feel unsettled and you feel uneasy. And we're not talking about the type of discomfort that you need to grow and thrive. We're talking about the discomfort that you are second guessing all the time, and you feel that uneasiness within you. Record things. This is advice that I've given to people in the past. Record things. Have a dictaphone. Write things down in a diary, because these things can be hard to prove. Even if you are not ready to leave, even if you don't have the resolve yet, or if you're not able to just yet, have a dictaphone, write things down, tell someone, anyone, even if you don't want them to do anything, let them know about it. These things can save your life. This could save your life and also aid prosecution if it comes to that down the line. And make a plan. So I don't know if anyone remembers that Lady Wisdom when she was speaking a couple of weeks back. She said that she asked her mother to take her daughter away so the daughter wouldn't be in the house. That effectively, she probably didn't realize it at the time, but what she was doing was really sensible and making a plan, planning her escape route. So if you've got out of a situation, don't ruminate and linger over the good times. And don't say, oh, it wasn't all bad, we had some good times. This is cognitive dissonance kicking in. This is your trauma bond. Don't ruminate over those things. We've spoken, when I've been on platform before, I've spoken how rumination is not good for stress. It's not good for your cortisol levels. That can give you chronic stress. It's not good for your anxiety. Do not ruminate, and do not give in to the trauma and linger over the good times. It wasn't all bad. This is cognitive dissonance, and that's your trauma bond. So if you're in a narcissistic relationship and you leave that, no contact whatsoever. Cut off all contact. Do not have any contact. Do not look for closure with a narcissist. Do not, if they've left you for somebody else. So remember I was saying when they're at that discard stage, they might even start seeing someone where you'll think you're still in a relationship. If things happen, you decide to leave, do not look for closure. You will not get it. You will not get it, and you'll be roped back in. Because remember, it's not about you. They're not there for you. You're there to serve them. You will get roped back into the situation, and that unhealthy oxytocin will kick in. Because it's that unhealthy oxytocin that wants that connection, that wants that bond, and it will latch back on to that thing again. Do not do it. No contact whatsoever. If you cannot do no contact, so for example, if there's children in the situation, what you need to do is detach. Have an intermediary. So have someone that will collect the children and drop them off. Have that person that's going in between. Do not have the contact, and be separate even in your language. There's no us, there's you on your own. There's you and there's them. if you have to have that contact. And you're not a unit anymore, so try and get that language out of your vocabulary. Don't respond. I've worked with someone before that their ex was sending them these, when they were with the children, sending these cutesy little texts and these manipulative pictures to draw them in. Oh, look at our wonderful family. Don't reply and do not get drawn in. That's an example of the type of things that they do. Don't try and reach out to their new partner, and don't try and reach out to their support system or their family, because they won't believe you and they will have laid the groundwork already. Because what the narcissist would have done is said, that person was, they were stalking me, they were crazy. They'll make you out to be the narcissist. They'll make you out to be the problem. They will side with them and they won't believe you. And all it's going to do is increase your stress and have you second-guessing yourself again, second-guessing your sanity. Protect your space and your boundaries at all costs. Protect yourself and protect your sanity. Do not isolate yourself. Do not be alone. Even if you've been in a situation where you've isolated yourself from friends and family, do not let that feeling of guilt and shame and fear, do not let that stop you from reaching out. And if you can't reach out to them, seek out support networks, support systems. Find some healthy connections, even if you're alienated from your friends. Find a support group. Do not allow shame to prevent you. That's really important. Give yourself time to heal. Give yourself the space and the time to heal, whatever you do. Allow yourself to grieve a loss. Don't let people's judgment of you think, oh, I can't grieve because I was in an abusive relationship. It was silly of me anyway. I can't grieve. You're experiencing a loss. Even as traumatic as that relationship was, you've lost something that you thought you had, that you genuinely thought was genuine and real, and you're going to feel it and it's going to be painful. Give yourself the space and time to grieve and really feel that loss. Seek professional support for trauma. I cannot emphasize this enough. Seek professional support wherever you can. Don't jump into another relationship, especially when you're vulnerable. You need to take this time to rebuild yourself, rebuild your self-esteem, rebuild your confidence. And narcissists, abusive personalities, so antisocial personality disorders, so the sociopaths, psychopaths as well, it's almost like they have this detection system for vulnerability and vulnerable people. Like they have this kind of sense, this wolf sense, and they can sniff them out. Protect yourself. Don't feel rushed to jump into another relationship because you are more vulnerable at that stage. So rebuild your self-confidence, have self-care, whatever you need to do for self-care. Find a creative outlet. Again, Lady Wisdom was a wonderful example of this. Her creative outlet that she drew strength from was her spoken word, poetry. Whatever you can find that is your own outlet, make the most of that. Change your environment, whether that's moving if you're not able to move, but create a space for yourself that's soothing and calming, and an environment that is conducive to healing. And try and minimize your stress. And then another important thing to do is do not allow this to become part of your schema. So remember we spoke about our cognitive framework, how we understand things, how we see the world. Do not allow this to become part of your schema. Do not allow this to color your view of yourself and your relationships. Do not allow it to take your joy. Do not allow it to steal your joy. And don't project and transfer this into new relationships. And this is difficult, but this is why you need the space and time for healing, to heal yourself from that trauma that you've been through. And this is why your support network steps in. So if anyone is out there that knows of someone like this, or that is supporting someone that's been through an abusive relationship or that's coming out of it, be compassionate, be loving, be patient. Because this is trauma. Educate yourself on what trauma is and what that kind of trauma is and what they've been through. Recognize it and encourage them to seek support. Don't be harsh or frank. Don't tell them to get over it. I told you so. You shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place. These things are not helpful. All you're doing is further diminishing that person that already feels such shame, when the shame is not them, is not theirs. The guilt is not on them. The blame is not on them. So don't do that. When you can be upfront and honest is when, and be firm with them, is when you're helping them to establish boundaries. And that's a really key thing that the support system needs to do, is help them to establish these firm boundaries and don't let them compromise them. So if you see someone's got a no contact in place and they're like, oh, I should maybe just look at them and see what they're doing here, then the support system needs to step in and be firm and say, no, protect your space. You made your boundaries, keep them. Because again, that trauma bond will kick in. And that's why they really need that support system around them. If you see them falling into dangerous behaviors, dangerous unhealthy habits or risky behaviors, so it could be substance misuse, self-harming, keep an eye out for those kinds of things and step in and give that support. Let them know their value. Give them validation, validate them, give them positive reinforcement, acknowledge their positive traits, let them know they are worthy. They are worthy of better, and they are worthy of love. So I got quite emotional then, because I was remembering someone very close to me that this happened to, and hearing them break down and say they were stupid, and I had to just say, you are so much better, you are so much more than that person made you feel, and you are worthy of love, and you are a loving, giving, beautiful soul and beautiful person. Give them that reinforcement. What you don't want to do, though, is don't run in to be their savior. Don't run in to be a savior and a hero and do everything for them. You're walking with them. See yourself as a companion walking along with them on this journey that's going to take time, and be there to hold their hand and be there to just listen. Listen to them. They need that. Don't just run in and be a hero, because what this can create is codependency, an unhealthy codependence, and that's not good. It's not good for you and it's not good for them, because you're putting them right back in the place that they were of being codependent. And so you want to be their companion on this journey. That's the best way that I can think of this, and having empathy. And to the community, so this is how you would support someone, but to community, call it out. Do not leave survivors isolated and on their own. Do not. Especially men in the community. If you see other men doing it, you have to call it out. Look, there is no sitting on the fence when it comes to narcissistic and abusive behaviors, because if we sit on the fence and we know some things are happening, we know that this person has a history, and then they come along and it's happened to the next person, no, call it out. Because if we don't, and I'm going to be raw with you here, if we don't call it out, we are complicit in putting people at risk. Please stop. Protect the people that deserve to be protected. Uplift the people that need uplifting. Yes, we need to heal from trauma, every single one of us. But like I said at the beginning, love and holding people to account are not mutually exclusive. They're not mutually exclusive. This is so important. It's really important to know that this can happen to anybody. Anyone can be in this situation, irrespective of your socioeconomic background. People have you think that it happens to certain people from certain communities, certain backgrounds. It's nonsense. It can happen to anyone, irrespective of education level, socioeconomic background, wherever they're from. But awareness can keep us safe. It might not necessarily prevent you from falling into one, but it can help you to get out, support you to get out, and those around you can help and be a support system when you're there. And this is why I say it's important not to see all those things that we spoke about before, emotional intelligence, respect, not to see these as idealistic notions, because we set the bar so low, and we need to set this new standard for our relationships. We need to set this new high standard as to where we want them to be. And the important thing to know is that we're modeling for the next generation. When it comes to healthy relationships, we are modeling, and this is speaking generally, not just talking about abusive relationships and just talking about unhealthy and toxic relationships. We are modeling for the next generation. We have to actively teach them how to be a good partner and a good friend. And the toxic behavior that we display, we display this, and then we scream and shout at the children when they start to mirror these things. We cannot do that. We have to know that we're modeling for them. We're not modeling for the next generation. So be the example, teach by example. If you want better for yourself, set the bar high. If you want better for your children, set the bar higher. Be accountable. Be accountable in front of our children. So the same way we should be accountable in relationships, we have to be accountable in front of our children. We can say to our children, sorry, I made a mistake. We're not infallible. It's so important for children to learn the power of accountability when they're young, because they will carry that into their adult life. They will carry that into their relationships. And we need to model this because they're being bombarded by all kinds of nonsense from the media, from all different kinds of things. We need to show them what real, true love and empathy is. What it really means, that it's honest and true and it holds to account. That's what we need to show children, and be firm in that. Remember, our actions either affirm or repudiate what we're telling them. So children are have far more discernment than we give them credit for a lot of time, children and young people. They know and feel when something isn't right. They know and feel when something isn't right. But what we do through our actions is we tell them to suppress that feeling. We tell them to suppress it. And we tell them that feeling safe and content isn't something that they should be looking for in a relationship, because look at the situations that we put ourselves in that we show them. We're telling them, suppress this. Feeling safe and content and loved in a relationship, this isn't an expectation that you should have. And then we turn around and wonder why resentment manifests in them. And then again, we have this cyclical trauma. Whether we intended to inflict it or not, it happens. To finish off, I wanted to quote a friend of mine that I was speaking about. We always used to have discussions in the work time. We'd call them our black talks. And we would always say to each other, the most revolutionary thing that Black people can do is build strong families. And that's how we do this, by having these healthy foundations, looking out for these red flags, having open, honest conversations, holding each other to account with love and empathy, but holding each other to account and modeling the best for our future generations. My throat's dry, Brother Andrew. My throat's dry. I'm taking a drink.
Wow. Brothers and sisters, I don't know what to say. Please don't let me be by myself, brothers and sisters. Let the sister know, because it's not worth me I don't have to say nothing. Brothers and sisters, let the sister know how fluent, how articulate, how plain. You can't say you couldn't understand what she was talking about. She didn't make it sound complicated. It was absolute truth. Brothers and sisters, I don't know what to say. Mr. Daniela, I'm telling you now, we thank Allah for you, sister. We took us on a journey, and you pointed out so many of the red flags and the problems and the strategies, but you gave us solutions, sister. You gave us the things to look out for. You gave us the way to understand how to literally reciprocate or to walk away or whatever it may be. You gave us all the analogies. Brothers and sisters, this is the Hidden Truth platform. Show some love to Sister Daniela, beloved brothers and sisters. Let her know. Let the sister know.
Thank you, Hidden Truth family.
Wow. Oh, wow, sister. No, the thanks is all ours, sister. The thanks is all ours. Sister Samira, could you end us off, please, on this note, please? This was just brilliant.
I don't know if you saw me, I was stood up. I've done a lot of standing up this evening. I'm going to say a couple of things, which is as follows. And then I'll also, if I can read out some comments and ask a couple of questions. But Danielle knows me. I need 5. This is important. This is important. No, but let me just say this, because some people must say, well, why is it that you refer to Danielle as your best friend? I don't need to beg and claim Danielle as my best friend. What it is, and Danielle knows this because we talk real talk, your support system and who you have in your circle are key.
Yep.
If everyone was really listening to what, I know there's a lot of chat, there was a lot of stuff going back and forth in the chat. You need to make sure that you have a support network. We can't live life by ourselves. And so I want you to understand the kind of caliber of people I have in my close inner circle. It's not to brag. It's so that we can, no, it's not. No, I mean, you're highly accomplished, sis. Let's get it real, right? But It's because I need everyone on the platform to know that we should all have people of Danielle's ilk and caliber in our social circle. And if you need to change the people around you, damn it, change the people around you. I'm very blessed, actually, that Danielle has always been in my circle for almost 30 years, but not everybody is. So then if you need to look out and see what you need to change, take strength from it.
Absolutely. And we just remember that even though we were looking at examples of romantic relationships, as I said, these can be platonic relationships as well, because these can be your friends and your friendships. In female groups, I've seen so many narcissists in female friendship circles. It's important to weed these people out, because what they do is they drain your energy. They drain your energy and they feed on negativity, and you feel it and it drags you down. It drags you down.
It does indeed. So I want to read out a couple of comments, as well as address a couple of things that were in the chat, if I may. So Lady Wisdom is in the house. Shout out to you, sis.
Lady Wisdom.
Brother Kevin as well. So I just want to read out their comment, which is, this is very informative, sis, and everyone needs to hear this. Lady Wisdom salutes you 100%. Thank you for your advice. Much love to you. Oh. Lady Wisdom was blowing up my WhatsApp during the session. But thank you, Brother Kevin, for posting that as well. We got Sister Heather. Thank you, Sis Danielle, as always, dropping all the knowledge in such depth, so clearly and with all the nuance. Brilliant. If I can read out Sister Dr. Elaine, she says, great wisdom and essential information. Thank you, Sister Danielle. Heart emoji.
Oh. Thank you, Dr. Elaine.
It goes on, but I must address a couple of points. Actually, before I address those points, Dan, if I can ask you, please, just to address this. Sister Jennifer has asked, is coercive abuse similar to narcissism?
Well, so you don't have to be a narcissist to engage in coercive control, but the two do follow each other quite a lot, to be perfectly honest with you. Narcissists do engage in coercive control quite a lot, but it's not necessarily exclusive to just narcissists. It's a form of abuse in and of itself.
Great stuff. And something else that I will address is that a number of people, it wasn't just you.
I don't care, sister, I don't care if you got 1 minute, beloved, and I'm being very serious. You've got 1 minute.
If you don't interrupt, then I'm able to ask. which is we will be holding a workshop. Quite a few people have asked, so that will be held. So you will get access to more detailed information, but it's not just information. As you can tell, Danielle is practical and solution orientated. Last 30 seconds is that some of you may have seen in the chat, and thank you to everyone who has registered and or donated thus far. Abuse is insidious, and it is something that it doesn't matter what kind of personality type you are. As Danielle has said, it can affect anyone. Yeah. Every week before the pandemic, 2 women in the UK were murdered by their current partner or their ex-partner. 2 women every single week. Every 11 minutes, a girl or a woman is murdered globally. This is the UN statistics as of 2020, every 11 minutes. So goodness knows right now how many women and girls have been murdered at the hands of their family members and or their intimate partner. Let that sink in, brothers and sisters. So I am actually, and Danielle is in partnership with me, we are supporting the Angelou Center. They do amazing works based up in Newcastle. It is stark statistics, Sister Diana, and heartbreaking, as you said, Sister Lisa. It's disgusting. And I'm sick of rhetoric. I'm sick of people just talking about things being disgusting. I'm sick of people thinking, oh yeah, it's horrid, but it's somebody else. If we say that I am because we are, then see yourself in those statistics and say, what can I do about it? Well, there is a center called the Angelou Center that are doing something about it. And they are up in the north of England. And why am I supporting them is because Down here in the south is where a lot of the resources, because the resources have been cut, by the way, most of the funding goes to London, Birmingham, and Manchester. But what about our brothers and sisters who are further afield? They are literally getting nothing. The Angelou Centre is specifically for Black and brown women. By the way, domestic abuse affects Black and brown women the most statistically. So I'm going to ask everyone, I don't care if it's £1, £5, £20, £50, £100, whatever you've got, I'm going to ask you please to wear this on your back, because resources, meaning money, is what is needed to keep centers like this open. They don't just have a refuge center, which is important because women and children need a place to escape to. But what they also have are the tools to help women and children rebuild their lives. Because yes, when children are exposed to the DV, the domestic violence of their parent, typically it is the mum who is the survivor or the victim in this case, they too need that therapeutic intervention. So what I love about the center is that they have a holistic approach. They have the refuge so that someone has safe accommodation, but they also give training, tools, CV writing skills, networking skills, so that women can rebuild their lives with dignity. And this is aimed at Black and brown women. We have 400 and odd people on this platform. Even if 100 people gave £5, that is £500 that we could actually raise to ensure that women are being protected. And it's not just with our words that we're saying it. We're going to put our money where our mouth is. We need to start marching with our money and not just our feet, because that is why we are where we are as a community. As Brother Andrew said earlier, it's economic empowerment that will move us. And it takes resources for us to move and to get to the position of power. I am asking you, brothers and sisters, I know times are hard financially, trust me. Them utility bills are high, but please give what you can. Give what you can. And remember, if you've already registered for the event on Zoom, you still need to donate and vice versa. Because I've been getting some emails and confusion with that. So hopefully it makes it very clear for everyone. But please give whatever you can. I know these women, they're doing amazing things up north. We need to make sure that wherever we are globally, that we can actually right the wrong of domestic abuse and call it out. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much, Brother Andrew.
Okay, brothers and sisters, once you've done it, just put a little note on the chat room and say donated. Yeah, let's see how many donations. And in fact, we actually want to do a show. When's the deadline, sister, for this?
So the beauty event that we're doing, so if you donate £20 or more, then you can attend the live makeup event globally. That is on Thursday, the 28th of April, 8 p.m. UK time.
Yvonne's just donated. Sister Sharon, 666.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Michelle, Sister Yvonne, Sister Sharon, Sister Pauline. Also, we had Sister Beverly when it was her birthday. She donated. Sister Romanita's donated. We had Brother Jamie donate. Obviously, I know Brother Andrew, you have helped us immensely. Please keep donating. I know that my aunts and my mom have donated. But please, brothers and sisters, please, let's keep donating. But on Thursday, the 28th of April, 8 p.m. till 10 p.m. UK time, which is 3 p.m. till 5 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. till 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I don't know the other time zones. We're running a beauty event. And so we've got different makeup artists. We're going to be showing you how to create different looks with a small amount of makeup. And it's just a little bit of fun so that we can continue to spread the love and raise great funds for this amazing organization that are Black and brown specific. That is who they support. Dinah
Smith's just donated. Mitch, I know Mitch will donate. Mitch always donates.
Sister Michelle.
Yeah, Kemi's donated. Sister Brother Noel Gordon. he's been with me for years. He said he was away from his laptop. Where can he donate? Pax Noir, I know Pax Noir donated.
We're friends on Instagram.
Edwards has just donated. And yeah, donate and share. We're gonna actually, one of our shows either next week or the week after, we're gonna do a on-spot one. We're all, even if you donated, we can all do it.
But £5,
even if it's £5, brothers and sisters, let's show some black love, okay? Listen, because of time, we're gonna have to really wrap up.
I'm done. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Stay blessed.
And we thank you, sister, for having the heart and the caring to say this, because obviously this, you don't benefit directly financially or any way other than knowing that, you know, you've done your work in terms of making sure that our people and all people are literally being looked after. And sometimes that is the best part, whereby even if it's not physically you that have been affected, but you have that empathy to say, you know, I don't have to wait for me to be affected before I even care. And that's the sad thing about it. Many of us only join revolutionary stances when one of our children or one of our mothers have been attacked. You don't have to wait till any of us have been attacked, brothers and sisters. It's a time now to actually start that ball rolling from now. So brothers and sisters, as I said, once again, we thank you so much. I want to say what a brilliant night we've had, brothers and sisters. This is the hidden truth. This is the hidden truth, brothers and sisters. And we linked the UK with the USA. Again, sisters, you've been killing it. We thank every single one of our professional experts tonight. Danielle, you have a way of teaching, sister, that is so fluent. You just don't miss a heartbeat, sister. You keep rolling, you keep giving the facts. Sister Daniela, we thank you, we thank you, we thank you. Our queen from outside of the pond. Sorry, Sister Danielle.
I was just saying thank you.
Oh, no.